Hello. Y'all hear me all the way in the back? My name is Cindy Gomez-Schempp. I'm with the People's Press Project. A lot of P's in there. People's Press Project. Our booth is right over there. My handsome husband is holding the camera. And I'm here to talk today about your communication rights. Our organization is the only nonprofit in this area that is focused on media justice and communication rights. And that's something that's really important for us to think about at this time in our country's history. Because when we turn on the television and we hear that there's been a hate crime that has occurred in our country, and people are calling this white supremacist a kid, a mentally ill person. They're calling him a lot of things that are not the same when we're talking about protesters, people of color, that are lifting up their voices against police brutality and the unjustified killing of unarmed black and brown people in this country. And those people are being called thugs and criminals. And I have to ask, is it any wonder when we have a presidential candidate like Trump announcing that Mexicans are all rapists and criminals, they're here to rape people and to bring drugs and crime, and then we have a white supremacist child, kid, who goes out and murders people, and he said the same things. He said, you come here to rape our women and you're taking over the country. His speech before he murdered those people in that church wasn't that different than the speech that Trump gave to announce his presidency, his candidacy for president in this country. That is very disturbing to me, working in media, because that narrative is the narrative that we hear in the news. Not all the news, but a lot of the news, right? And it is not just our jobs at this time to look critically at media. It is our duty to become not just consumers of whatever we're fed through the TV tube, but to ask ourselves, where is our media coming from? Who motivated this speech? Who are the people that own the media? And let me tell you, the number of people that own media is very consolidated. It's only about 5 media owners that went down from, in the 70s, it went down from, dozens, like 50, 60 companies that had media. Now it's only like 5. Is it any wonder that the messages are kind of like a tunnel of the same things over and over again? So I'm here to ask people to think about what their communication rights are and what you can do as a person in this community, as a person that is watching the news, a person that's consuming media, to change that narrative. Because we all have a right to communicate our own stories and our own perspective in the media without barriers. That's one of the articles of the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19. Every single one of us has the right to have a conversation about express ourselves in the media without barriers. And in truth, how many of us have that platform? How many of us even trust what is said in the media? Over 60% of Americans don't believe in the media. And you know what? It's really sad to say, but the most moving and salient message that came out of the TV about the shootings in South Carolina came from Jon Stewart, not our president. That should really give us all pause. And that means that we need to do something, and it's not just the national picture. It's here at home. Because we have problems in our community where we have the same narrative in the news. People talking about certain neighborhoods in Fargo where we have problem people. People talking in the police department about people of color, saying they're thugs and criminals. I'm hearing the same words. And that's concerning to me because the same violence that's been visited in these big cities like Baltimore and Ferguson and New York could be visited right here in Fargo or West Fargo or one of our smaller towns. It isn't that far-fetched because you have to remember, folks, racism is a system, it's an institution, it's not an individual choice. We all are participants in a country that was founded on the genocide of Native American people, the land theft of Native American people, and the enslavement and indentured servitude of people of color. We have to reckon with that history. We have to come to terms with it today, and we can't have people in the media going, whoops, it happened again. Who knows why that happened? Oh no, what will we do? Throw up our hands and go, wonder why. We can't do that anymore. If we want to stop the bloodshed that is occurring in our country, it has to start right here with every single individual that's listening to me right now, deciding to change that narrative, holding our media accountable, and participating in telling our own stories. That's why the People's Press Project applied for an FCC license to bring a local community radio station to our town. And thank you. And we were awarded that license, and we're going to be launching that station soon. And we want the news to come from the people that live here. We don't want our news to sound like the spun out same things that we hear on Fox News or the major news networks, just regurgitated to us and repackaged in our small town media. So we're bringing community news and community radio so that the people in this community can express their own views about what's going on here, so that we can create our own programming and so that we can tell our own stories. I invite you to stop at our table, sign up for our newsletter so that we can update you, and share this information with other people. Because we're going to be doing trainings, we're going to be doing more education around communication rights, and we want to invite people to get involved. And in closing, I just want to talk a little bit about another project that we've been working on, which I also want to encourage everyone here to think about critically, because we talked a lot about police brutality in this country recently with the deaths of so many unarmed black and brown people. And the discussion around it seems to circle around whether or not we should have body cameras or not. I'm here to tell you, it is your right to film the police when they're doing their duty in public. And if there is anybody doing anything in public that you'd like to film, you can film that too. It is your right. And I also would say, at this time, at this juncture in our country's history, it's also your duty. We have to film the police because we need to keep them accountable to us. There is a loss of accountability between police forces and the communities they're policing. In many of the cases that we've heard about in the media, the police that are mostly white and policing a mostly black community don't live in that same town. They're not even neighbors with the folks they're policing. That's a problem. But even if we do get body cameras, that isn't going to stop cameras from failing. It's not going to stop officers from turning them off or blocking them. We already have dash cams in cars and police vehicles, and a lot of those have not worked in making sure that we know what really is going on when there's a police stop. So I would encourage people, even if we get body cams, know your rights. Be accountable to yourselves by knowing your rights when you're talking to a police officer. We have some great handouts that give you really 5 short sentences to remember whenever you have a police encounter. It's really important these days to know exactly what your rights are so that you don't end up like Michael Brown or Tamir Rice or Rakia Boyd or John Crawford. And I could go on, but we don't have all day. So I'm asking folks, and I know that this isn't easy because, frankly, when we started having this conversation in this community last summer about holding police accountable and about uploading your stories with the hashtag cop coverage so that we can start to have an archive of the complaints in this community of police brutality and misconduct. There were some pretty prominent figures in our community that came forward to say that they were victims of police abuse. Because the people of color in poor communities that were coming forward were being criminalized, were being, slandered in the media. If they had a criminal record, they were immediately non-credible. So people like me had to come forward and talk about the stories about how I've had Fargo police officers put me in the back of their vehicle and pat me down and humiliate me right in the middle of Broadway for no reason that they could ever articulate. That I had another Fargo police officer walk up to me and unholster their gun as they were walking toward me. That in Moorhead, one of our radio announcers in, was it 1100 AM The Flag, had police taser him for filming the police. And a former foreign reporter named Daniel Hagelin came forward to say that he was shooting photos of the police in Fargo downtown, helping a homeless man. He wasn't even filming them doing anything bad, and the police got angry and threatened him for filming them. So there's a change that's occurred from that time until now. People are realizing that, in the police force, people are realizing that folks do have a right to film them, and that we're going to take out our cameras when they're doing their job. And if we're going to teach that lesson to the police and to communities of color, we have to start doing it all the time in our own communities. So I challenge you guys to participate in your local media, hold your media accountable, think critically about where your media comes from, and get involved. Thank you.